Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. My name is Leanna Hahn, and I'll be your host and teacher for today. Today we're going to take a look at this really cute, very loose painting, and I use the phrase loose quite often here because we like to keep our paintings not very tight, especially for the novice, for folks like you at home who are trying something for the first time. So we don't want you to get freaked out by trying to achieve something very tight and very crisp. So we give you something that's a little bit looser. The lines here are very vague. It's not very, tight, I guess is the best way to say it. So this one is called Ding Dong Bell. And it's really just a combination of some nice, beautiful blues, and there's a little bit of purples in there. We like to use a little bit of splatter painting because you know what it does from a visual perspective, it kind of creates a lot of movement here. So if you don't like the placement of your lines, it's a wonderful way to just create a lot of noise kind of in the background, and so you lose perspective on exactly where your lines are. So if you don't like the placement of your lines, it helps hide it. So it's a good mistake corrector. To start off, we're going to go ahead and do a quick inventory of what you'll be using today. We have 4 paint brushes. We have a number 6 round, we have a number 4 round, we have a number 1 round, and then we have a number 2 square. As always, we are working with acrylic paints, and today we have a light green, we have a cad yellow, we have a cobalt blue, we have a little bit of metallic silver today, which is kind of something different. We have white, we have dioxide purple, and of course we have black. As always, make sure you have a cup of water for cleaning and a dab rag for dabbing off. So we start off by taking a look at our painting and deciding what's going to go first. So where's the background, where's the foreground? Now, this is really not a 2 or 3 dimensional painting. This is really just kind of a 1-dimensional painting. So we don't have anything going on in the background. This is really a blank canvas. So we're not going to worry too much about that. So we're just going to start with placement of our flower. So to do that, we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to try and keep both of these on the canvas so it's kind of helpful to see them both together. Let's see if we can make sure that this works without knocking them off and losing them. If not, I may go ahead and just move this down. We'll just move it down. All right. There you go. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our first little flower here. So in general, this is your focal point. A lot of this is just to kind of create some background and kind of give you some depth and dimension. So our main one is right over here. Again, very loose, doesn't have a lot of structure to it. We're going to draw that with our medium brush. So go ahead, dip it in the water, wake it up, and dab it off. And we're going to grab our cobalt blue. So this is roughly, not completely over to the left, but about, I'm going to say about 2 inches off from the left side. So we're going to go ahead and give this a nice swoopy feel. And I'm using the side of my brush to draw with. So we're just kind of giving it some form and just laying it out there. So we got the first one out there. Let's go ahead and place the second one. That one's going to be a little bit over here, and it's kind of facing off the canvas. So we'll do the same thing. Just kind of gives us an idea where our flowers are going. Now we have a last little flower, or 2 flowers more so. We have one that's kind of on the bottom here, and it's very simple. It's kind of your standard structure of petals. Almost looks kind of like a daisy-esque. So we'll just kind of get that placed there. And we've got the last one up here as well. These 2 can kind of run into each other. So we kind of have an idea where those are going. Now go ahead and dip this one in your water and rinse that off. We're going to move into the larger round brush, dip that in your water, dab it off, and let's go ahead and start getting some paint on our flowers. We're going to do this by working with that cobalt blue and moving in the direction of the form of your flower. Now what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to grab one tiny little dab of white. And what this is going to do is this is going to create some really great coverage. You will find that with the majority of your paints, white is a fabulous medium. It helps spread, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive. You think white would be more translucent, but actually white is a wonderful medium, and it makes all those other colors like the blues and the reds and the purples, it makes them far more solid. It helps them cover the canvas. So we use that quite a bit. Now you'll notice as well, once I get towards the edge, I kind of turn it to the side, and I use it like a pencil when I'm drawing. And as I get back to the center, I go ahead and go back to using the full side of the paintbrush to go ahead and move that paint around the canvas. Now as I'm going back to my palette here, I'm grabbing and I'm jumping between the two. So I'm not necessarily mixing a color and adding it to the canvas here. I'm just kind of grabbing the two and letting the two mix right on the canvas, because I don't have a real strong preference on the color that I'm going to end up with. So I get that question quite a bit. Should I create a color and then take it to the canvas, or should I allow the color to be created on the canvas? And the answer is it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're open to the color, then let it be created on the canvas. Now I've just gone and grabbed a little bit of purple, and we're going to add a little bit of purple highlight. Just kind of giving it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more interest. Very nice. Now, this particular flower is going to be the exact same as that one. Again, my goal here today is not to complete this entire painting, but to give you enough that you can go home and finish this in entirety by yourself. So I'm going to skip completing this painting for you, or this flower for you, but I am going to work on this one. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead, very similar process. Let's jump between the two. And then we're going to add a little bit of purple. Now, how much purple should you add? And that answer really depends on what kind of depth you're looking for. So if you want something that's a little bit more deeper, go ahead, grab some more purple. It's truly up to you. This is your painting. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. I like these colors together. They complement very nicely. So it's a wonderful blend. You really can't go wrong. Now you'll notice again, when I'm going around the edges, I turn it to the side and let that kind of work as a pencil to draw. Now I'm also using that purple to kind of distinguish which petal goes on top of the other one, because obviously we need to see them. One is going to lay on top of the other. So that kind of helps make that distinguishment. If it was all the same color, it would be very difficult for your eye to see which one's on top. Now towards the center here, we're just going to create just some color in general. Just make sure we have some coverage. we'll finish up on the bottom here. Now, as a reminder for you at home, make sure, I'm painting from the side here, but make sure you step back. That's very important. You don't want to lose perspective of your painting. When you're very close on top of your painting, your eyes are going to focus in very tight and you won't be able to see. It's not until you step back that your eyes will adjust and you'll be able to get the full perspective. So that's when you take a look and you go, okay, looks good, I like it, I don't like it, I need to add this, I need to modify. So don't forget to do that. That's a very important step in painting. So once we have these flowers on here, let's go ahead and wash this off. We're going to go ahead and start working on our stems. So we've got some really nice green here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of by laying out the top of the flower here. And it kind of reminds me of, the form of these flowers really kind of reminds me of almost kind of like a Dr. Seuss-esque kind of feeling. It has this very downward swoopy kind of feel. And we'll make the top of that a little taller. Again, I'm just using the tip of this brush. And then we're going to go ahead and move this up off the canvas. Coming back down to make some of our leaves. Now you'll notice I do make, as my stem is coming down, I always make this move down and develop out. So the tips of your leaves are going to be very fine, and as it develops out, it's going to be thicker here, same here. When you're coming down to the base, you always want to make it a little thicker at the base because that's the natural formation right before you hit the bulb where you kind of enter the flower. So, and so we've got a few other little leaves over here. We'll practice a little bit more. Again, this is a nice practice session and just working with this type of brush. Now, everybody has their favorite brush. I like to draw with this one a lot. I use it for painting and drawing, but some folks feel a little bit more comfortable with a much smaller brush. So this is where you at home really need to kind of play with that, find your comfort level, and get something that you feel good with. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, wash that off, and we're going to move into our tiny, tiny little brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to start adding just a little bit of complementing strokes. So inside this particular little flower here, we've just got some quick little wisps. And just to show that there's some activity and dimension. More specifically, around the edge, we're going to come in and make some very quick outline. This is where our A-type personalities, you guys are going to have to let go and enjoy this. This is supposed to be a very loose painting. You're going to notice my lines don't necessarily match up. So, and it is structured to be like that. I want you to have the opportunity to make this very loose. Allow for mistakes and let this be very open for interpretation. You'll notice my lines go way down far below where these leaves are ending. and they don't necessarily match exactly where that stem is ending, and it's intended to be that way. I am also keeping the edges of these flowers wide open. What I mean by that is I am not making it a very tight end of the flower. I'm just letting it kind of land where it lands and not worry about it. Then we'll come in and we'll add a few dots here in the center just to kind of create some depth. And we'll throw out a few stems. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing in silver. So go ahead, wash off that brush, and we're going to dab it off. And we're going to grab some silver just because it's kind of fun. It just kind of gives it a little bit more dimension as well. Also, when you move that painting, it's going to give it a shimmer, which is kind of neat. I'm just kind of laying this down, generally on one side of the petals here. I'll kind of complement with some more dots in the center, and as well go right on top of those stems that we added. And as far as the greenery, let's do that same thing with yellow. Same premise. And let's grab some yellow and kind of come in and add some highlights here. Again, we just want to give it some dimension, something more than just one flat color. Now, last but not least, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over into this number 2 square brush. I'm going to go ahead and grab some water, and I'm going to add this into the black. And what I'm going to do, now this is I'm going to warn everybody at home, make sure you have a place on wherever you're painting, if it's your kitchen table, make sure you've got something covered. We're going to do a little bit of splattering. And we're just going to do a little bit of flicking. And this is kind of more of a splatter. We've done a lot of splatter painting where we put a lot more water on it. This one we're going to put a little less water on it. And we're getting a little bit closer to the canvas because we're kind of doing more of a spray. You see this a lot when you're doing paintings where perhaps you're doing a seashore and you're doing some water. So this is kind of that effect. It's much smaller. I'm just intended to give it a little bit of motion, a little bit of activity in the back. All right. So hopefully you've picked up a few tips and you've learned enough from these flowers that you folks at home can go ahead and finish up those flowers on the side there. They're really the same thing. Feel free to add some white wisps in there if you want to add some more highlights, and enjoy it. Play with your different paint brushes, play with your different textures. If you have enjoyed this and you have more questions, would like to learn more about painting something like this, send us an email to info@picassosgrapevine.com. Thank you for joining us.